What's up, everybody? Welcome to Meadow Memo, Meadow's monthly podcast that charts recent changes and trends in the cannabis industry. I'm your host, David Hua, CEO and co-founder of Meadow. Once a month, I sit down with cannabis dispensary and delivery operators to explore trends and hear insight into what's happening at the retail level of this growing industry. At Meadow, we build a full suite of cannabis retail software combining point of sale, delivery, cannabis marketing, compliance, inventory management, analytics, and more in a single, easy-to-use platform. Today, I sit down with Genevieve Towne, the GM at Kush Alley. In this conversation, Genevieve and I explore what it takes to run a vertical cannabis operation, her role in opening up the new Maven Store recently in Tarzana, managing 60 employees, and consistently growing and selling some truly fire flower. Before we dive in, I'm excited to taste some Maven flower that comes from Genevieve's operation in SoCal. We had the pleasure of ordering some delivery from Nice Guys who stocks Maven, and we were able to get some Blue Lotus, Yuzu Mac, Triple XOG, and some Ambrosia, and a bunch of Gelato Mint Smalls. There's a lot of beautiful flower here. If you look at, the Ambrosia, pretty. What I love about them is that they have these little tasting cards, the genetics and the effects. One thing I love about Maven is they have incredible award-winning OG. This Triple X OG is probably most likely what I'm going to smoke. It smells great in OG fashion. Okay, Triple XOG. This has 34% total cannabinoids, 33% THC. They're 2.4% in terpenes. It's high in terpenes on limonene, myrcene, and pinene for the tasting notes. It's known for a great strain for chronic pain. It won the 2014 High Times Cannabis Cup for Best Indica. It's a cross between skunk-derived Triple X and classic OG Kush. Has a woodsy flavor profile. Has that OG, that earthy pine aroma. Delicious, as always. All right, I guess we're going to get started. So, Genevieve, thank you for joining us on Meadow Memo. You are the general manager at Kush Alley. We've known each other for 4 or 5 years. I believe we first met,
yes.
But when it wasn't even built yet. It was just a blueprint on these fold-out tables.
That is correct.
It was just a dream. And I believe you're fresh. You just got into the industry.
It really was.
Right? This is a whole new thing for you. And so this is going to be fun. We get to look back on sort of what's going on and look forward. So
yes.
Thank you for joining. So let's start. Can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey in the industry so far?
Yes, of course. My journey actually started with my cousin-in-law, David Bosworth, who's the CEO of Kush Alley. And he approached me and said, I'm opening up this dispensary. I'd like you to help open it, run it, manage it. And it kind of all flourished from there. 4 years later, we started in early 2018 with Kush Alley. It was a dispensary. We opened July 2nd, 2018 with then my counterpart handling the retail operations at that time. And it's just been a great journey ever since.
It's one of the most beautiful shops too, right?
Thank you.
I think it may be helpful for people that have not been, talk about sort of the experience there.
The experience, that's it. Thank you for asking. I think customers get a really great experience when they enter Kush Alley. It's really a one-on-one. We've been known to Apple Store of dispensaries is what they have named us, but you do get that one-on-one experience. You get to sit in this very nice lobby, televisions, very clean. You're greeted by a bud tender and one-on-one service from beginning to end. They do check you out and then they walk you out. So it's very much like I like to say like you're entering someone's home and the guest, and you do get that service.
That's been from the very beginning. You're like, hey, I wanted to do this consultative experience, roaming around, showing people what's there. Has that evolved with the customer and their education, or have you seen any changes in your operating experience because of that?
No, I think customers like that experience. The one-on-one, they feel secure, they feel safe, they feel important. Customers like that, and I want to continue to keep that, embrace that customer service. And I think that's what sets us apart from most of the dispensaries that you might visit.
Yeah, it also feels very much like a family vibe. And, you've worked with family, literally,
Yes.
not just, not just, a vibe. And, and we see a lot of people in cannabis actually have family members that they're working with. And, um, you know, do you have any advice or best practices when you're working with close family and how you divide these responsibilities and navigate all of the stress and the
It's a good question. I
pressures?
mean, I think working with family does have its advantages and disadvantages. Obviously, I think working with anyone, but core values are, I think, what keeps us together, and understanding that we all have different values that we bring to the table and contributing that, and respecting each other's opinions, but collaborating together as well. I think that's important and has evolved. Sometimes it could be probably detrimental, but I think it has worked for us. I think friends have become family, and family is like friends. So it's very much like that here, and I like to keep that environment going.
Do you mind sharing what some of those core values are?
Respect, hard work. Honestly, I think if everyone has a passion, I think everyone here, all the employees, all 60 of us have the same passion, rather it be the passion to grow, the passion to sell, the passion to educate, passion to help, whatever it is, that we have that passion and we all contribute to it. And I think that's what keeps us going, honestly. And anyone in the industry that has that passion, you can see it, rather it be in our success. When you visit our store, you feel that comfort. So I hope that we continue that.
Hopefully you have, other extended family that you can start keep bringing in to help. So as GM of Kush Alley, what does a typical day in your life look like?
Oh, crazy. Usually I come in, I check on the retail, make sure they're good, staffing, sales, product, inventory. I'll check the distribution department, make sure everyone's well there, and packaging is sufficient and we don't need any bodies. We try to pull, if we can, certain departments do have inner training there, just making sure everyone's good and doing what they need to do, and everyone has what they need to do their job. I don't really have a typical day per se, but mainly I work very closely with the CFO and the CEO when they're here, and that's primarily making sure that our sales, thinking of innovative ways to bring in customers.
Yeah, and pretty much, putting out any fire that is happening or helping people move through.
Oh yeah.
You know, can you speak to sort of, you're like a power user of Meadow. We've heard a lot of your feedback and we've tried to do our best to implement everything. It's improved over the years with that feedback. And, as you go through your day to day, how would you describe how you're pulling information or how you're managing your operations through some of the tools you're utilizing?
I mean, without honestly a great POS system like Meadow, it's hard to really do our day to day. We pull from tax reporting to daily sales reporting to the number of customers we have today, products sold report. The insights reports have been very, very informational. We have, like everyone else, we're seeing a decline in sales, but interesting enough, because of the data that is provided through Meadow, we're really not seeing very decline in customers. It's just customers are really just spending less. Kind of interesting data there. But I think, without Meadow, we couldn't do our day to day, honestly.
We appreciate that. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for you and your team. And we're still working on a lot of things. So I'm looking forward to sharing with them soon.
Well, honestly, though, we have to be innovative. I think in this industry, we're always working to do something different. What may work today may not work tomorrow. So I think that's one of the things that brings Meadow, sets you guys apart, is to make, talking to us, getting the innovative things change. And I like that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh yeah, you have a star when we talk to you on the chat bubble. That brings you up to the top. You mentioned some of these trends that you're seeing in the data. Are there any other trends you're seeing in the retail environment?
It's always different to see the trends. A product buying, customers, consumer buying is always a good trend. It's very interesting to see that, sometimes we'll see an increase in vapes, and then that'll fall off and we'll see a lot of joints being sold, and then it's infused joints, and now people are kind of going away from the infused and just doing non-infused. So it's kind of staying up with those trends and figuring out what the next thing is. Taxing is always, trying to figure out a ways where we don't want to keep giving deep discounts because it's going to hurt our bottom line, but innovative ways to try to bring in revenue without hitting our sales numbers.
The discounts can be a double-edged sword. And,
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help anyone really when it becomes expected versus like delighted. Or a way to bring people in, but not the entire cart or something like that.
Right.
No, that makes sense. You've also expanded to delivery. You have in-store. Can you speak to how you handle customer buyer behavior between in-store or delivery and how you think about that?
With delivery, we don't give any discounts. I think it's just hard to do that. We're already seeing a decrease in revenue with delivery, just with having the delivery driver on staff and sending them out and so forth. But we've tried to expand to Simi Valley. I think that's a pocket. One, I'm a resident there, but two, it's a pocket that isn't really being serviced very well. And there is one dispensary in the valley that does service primarily Simi Valley. So I'm trying to get into that niche of the valley. It is still small. Delivery is still a small percentage of our sales. It's mainly in-store. Online, I would say, would be the second. It's just convenient. I think because of COVID, people just like that option of ordering, especially they know what they want. But the delivery, I think, is just kind of it's a double-edged sword as well. If you don't have you have to meet that minimum to make sure that you make that revenue for that sale.
Yeah, it makes sense. We're also seeing the question, is it bringing in new customers or is it just serving existing customers?
Mm-hmm.
If it's servicing existing customers, is it higher cart size than what they were coming in store? And we're seeing delivery oftentimes higher because of the minimums. But I'd be curious if you're seeing this as an acquisition of new customers, or you're looking at this as a value add to existing?
The Simi Valley area was actually trying to get an acquisition of new customers to that area just to kind of bring awareness. We actually participate in the Simi Valley Fair this month. October 29th will be our third event there to bring in new customers, bring awareness, just trying to hit a revenue pocket that we haven't hit. I'm trying to think of new ways to bring in revenue without, again, giving those deep discounts.
Yeah, it makes sense. Your operation is unique. You have 60 people working for you. You have a 10,000 square foot cultivation. You do manufacturing, distro, retail. So you see the whole supply chain, and there are operators that are trying to go vertical. You were kind of early in setting that vision, especially because the cultivation partners and expertise that you had. I remember, your OG is just insane. How do you think about, as you've expanded your team, your hiring of labor, your training, cross-training employees in these different roles, and ultimately, how do you use that data and performing and making sure your employees are doing, what they need to do and leveling up?
Leveling up, yeah. I mean, we have scaled back a lot, to be quite honest. We're probably from 60 to maybe 55, 54, something like that. But, we do run with a slim crew. I don't think there's really much for any lackadaisy. Everyone is pretty on set with their task, and there's really no room for lax. For people to be too slow around here. Everything is accounted for. So if someone is really not performing well, it is known and it's seen because the departments are slow, although we are 60 and it is a vertically integrated. Each department does run very uniquely, and the cross training is within certain departments. For instance, like manufacturing, we may not cross train there because that is a specialized skill there. It is run on shifts and structured very well. We have cultivation. Cultivation has few different departments within cultivation. You have the trimmers, you have the defoliation, you have the nursery. So within cultivation, obviously, you do have some cross training there. Yes and no, because then you have to make sure that the flower is not being jeopardized, mistreated or jeopardized within that process. So you want to make sure, obviously, everyone is cross trained well, because defoliation does seem like an easy task or but it really is a trained task. It is important. We do have retail and distribution. That would be those are cross-training departments, surprisingly, because the retail, when we are slow, then I'll bring maybe one of my retail staff where I don't want to, maybe send them home. I'll maybe move them to the distribution and they can help package. I mean, it just kind of seems like a good fit. They sell it, they can package it. So those cross-training tasks have actually worked really, really well for us. Certain departments, I would say, no, their cross-training, can't be done. I can't move somebody in distro to do bud tending. So, those things are difficult. But it has worked really, really well for us. And I think that's what has made us successful and sustainable for the last 4 years and hopefully and counting.
Yeah. There's a little bit of humility there because we picked up some flour from Nice Guys. So you can see all this different flour and all the smalls. But I mean, we know there's not a lot of automation. This is like premium packaging.
Yes.
I know that every label was probably stuck by hand. Every flour is beautifully trimmed, jarred. You also include another terpene profile, genetic profile card, which has the education. I mean, this is not just put into a bag and move it along. There is an extreme amount of care that's put into this, and it's much appreciated of the quality that the flour has, but also the packaging. And I'm sure the QA is probably pretty insane too over there.
Oh yeah. No, Maven has done an awesome job. I think that's what they strive for. That's what the brand is. It's premium, high quality flour that, it is hand picked, it is hand jarred. That's what makes it, I think, so special.
Because of that, you've been able to open a Maven Store.
Yes.
And so this is the second store. Can you tell us sort of that story, and it's up and running and getting it out there and some of the hurdles you've experienced?
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting for everyone involved with the Maven Store and Maven Genetics. I was pleased and excited to be part of it in the licensing phase. Actually, licensing started, they applied in 2019, believe it or not, went through started the licensing phase then, and finally got licensing after going through the city licensing, which does take a long process. And then once you get city approval, then you go to state approval. All of that took probably about 3 years. We finally got licensed in June 28 of 2022, this year. I had the honor of just working with all the owners of Maven and progressing the licensing processing, working with the local municipalities and state, and getting them up and running to make sure that they can open their doors in time. It was a hurdle. I think the biggest hurdle was not knowing the process, because once you get city licensing approval, you would hope that you can open in a certain amount of time, but the state licensing approval could take just as long. We were very fortunate enough to not go through, maybe it may have took 2 to 3 months, maybe from city licensing to state licensing approval. But within that time, you're kind of in limbo. So the biggest hurdle is hiring. We found the right staff, but we can't open yet because now we're waiting for the state licensing. So if in a perfect world, if at some point they can make that a little bit more streamlined, or, just so we have more awareness of when the dates, and we're not, there's just a lot of money that is spent, unfortunately, with the unknowns of, trying to find the right staff. And we lost a lot of good candidates because of that, because, you have a commitment date, but you can't open because of licensing.
And you're still paying rent, and you're still trying to figure out what to stock and when to stock it. And your distributors are asking when they should bring it.
And then we're on terms. So, obviously we like to say we're making a boatload of money when you open the door, but like everything else, it takes time. That, I would say, is our biggest hurdle. And the rent has been, we've been sitting on rent for 3 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And they have to pay that all back. So, but yeah, they're doing a great job. After the licensing, I, kind of handed everything over to the director there, and some of the managers there. One of the managers here has helped. So it's been really just kind of a family effort.
Yeah, I could see that. It really takes an entire team, and the patience of a saint, right? This is incredibly difficult when you are trying to move along and you have no control over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Do
not
you?
only no control, but no, you don't even have a date. Like you can't
Yeah.
even plan anything. So that's really sad.
Yeah, that needs to be remedied. It just doesn't work. For people that are in a dispensary or currently working, do you have any pro tips or advice that you've sort of picked along the way that you're like, you know what, they should know this? Share some of your wisdom.
I always just say treat people how you want to be treated, honestly. I think that if you care about what you do and you care about your people, then your people are going to care about your customers. And you hope that just trickles down. I mean, there's really no magic cure. I think that it's just, we're still learning, we're still growing, we're still going to hit bumps along the road. And I think that's just what makes us successful at the end of the day. It's just what keeps us striving. What worked yesterday is probably not going to work today, and what worked 2018 when we opened is definitely now it's time to like revamp everything and relook at what worked, what didn't work, what can be working. Social media has taken over a whole new concept of marketing now, so that's interesting in itself.
Yeah, I mean, having known the team, qualities that I really admire is there's a huge amount of humility. You guys really approach this, with so not a lot of ego, but you bring like the heat. This is very high quality in the experience and the execution. So, that is really helpful in moving things along. You've probably learned a lot of lessons in this verticalization model. And any insight that you could share there, because it's incredibly capital intensive. You're managing multiple licenses, multiple teams. You have more control, but you also have more overhead. People are looking at that as a solution to increasing their margin by having their own flower, but they may not know a lot of these hurdles or challenges that are ahead of them when they consider verticalizing or consolidating.
The hurdle that I think everyone is probably facing with right now is just an overstock of product and trying to flush it for the best price, right? I mean, we're still paying the same to grow the same type of flower, but the prices have obviously decreased. So it's trying to find different ways to sell the flower, white label the flower without jeopardizing the brand itself.
I mean, I actually like your, even the minis. I think that's been great.
Well, because you have to try to figure out a way to sell all of it, right? We can't bulk all of it. So you got to figure out smalls and minis, and then, then you have different pricing for all of that. Because then you have a consumer that we still have at Kush Alley. It's primarily, we're hidden. So a lot of our consumers are looking for that value. They don't have the dollar to spend on the ounce all the time. So maybe they want, a cheap half ounce, or, we introduce 4 grams. So maybe they want to do that. So it's just certain things to find out what the demographic want.
Yeah, it's such a balance because, we see people end up shopping for value or high THC, but that may not translate to it being a quality tasting, feeling flower. Have you been able to cross that gap in educating the customer on not just, hey, high THC and low price versus treat yourself to some more well-rounded, not maybe as affordable, but flavorful and enjoyable flower?
Yeah, I think the connoisseurs, older generation, I would say, demographic, are looking for the quality of flower, the connoisseurs of the cannabis. But, then you have the younger generation, mostly that want just high THC for the best price. They think that's going to get them high, and they don't understand that, there's the terpenes and there's a lot of other factors that come into it that's going to actually enhance the flower instead of just the high THC. It is finding that hurdle. I think that the bud tenders have done an amazing job, and they do an amazing job educating the customers on not only the THC percentage, but what the terpenes profile means and what their ailments are, if they are having any ailments, and what would be the best. Somebody has anxiety, they probably don't want that high THC. So the bud tenders have done a great job in educating everyone.
That's really crucial as you sort of level up. It's like going into a wine shop and be like, here's my 17%. Here you go.
Yeah, no, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. There's a lot of education that's needed because there's a lot of quality flower that's being ignored just because of price, or maybe doesn't hit 30%. There's some amazing 18, 22% flower out there that tastes great and makes you feel great.
I agree.
Yeah, we could touch on a couple more things and then wrap up. It's challenging out there, and you hear it over and over again. What advice do you have for people in the industry going through these challenges? And then what do you look forward to that sort of keeps you going throughout this, that gives you at least a little bit of optimism or hope or and how you sort of approach this journey?
We're all probably, like I say, we are facing it together. The challenges of selling, what I hope for is probably going to be easier. What I look forward to is getting out of this hurdle that we're all in. I think the hopefulness is we're all gonna survive somehow. I think we just have to set ourselves apart. And for us, it's our service. I look forward to being able to have, a realm of brands. We've seen brands come and go. It's sad to see some of the smaller brands that are not being able to survive right now, and they're having to, close their doors. Some are not going to survive. Some of us are just going to, have to pull through. I can tell you from us, we're having to look at every little penny that we're spending, trying to save just to make it through this wave. I, look forward to hopefully in the very near future where we can come out of this and everyone survives. I think what makes me come in and keep going every day, honestly, is all the employees, because it's all of our livelihoods, right? We all need a job. We all need to survive. And why not do something that we all love and that we all have passion about? I just look forward to us being here in the next 4 years, and hopefully you and I having another conversation in the next 4 years. Really, that's really just all I can hope for. No one knows what tomorrow will bring. I just try to make people enjoy what they do today and try to make the best of what they have. That's all I guess I can really do at the end of the day. I'm trying to do an initiative on taxes. The initiative I have for taxes is on local tax level. All of our cannabis tax goes to a general fund, right? My initiative, or what I would like to see, is some of that cannabis city tax dollars go to fund sanitation, fund city workers. Around the corner from Kush Alley, we just had it cleaned up, but we had months of RV parking, and that wasn't even my problem. It was the trash that accumulated. As of this week, it all has been cleaned up, and thanks to the neighbors behind us, to the business neighbors here, myself, we went and city council member meetings and such, we were able to get it cleaned up. We pay a lot of cannabis tax dollars into the fund, and we just need to know where that money's going, and can that money be redirected to more service our community. However we can get that going would be amazing, but we do need to do something because our cities are getting worse. What they're saying is that they're crushing up fentanyl and putting it in joints now with weed. That's very scary. When we were kids, we didn't have to worry about any of that.
Well, I think that speaks to a larger issue, which is there's illicit activity that is incentivized from a high tax structure. I mean, when you're looking at 30-40% higher than street value, you're going to engender a market that's emboldened to do these types of things.
Absolutely.
I mean, the reason why I shop at licensed legal is because I know it's been tested more than any other product on the planet.
Exactly.
And it's going to be clean. It doesn't have these isn't tainted. So it's tough. I look at the road ahead, and the solution is really we need lower taxes across the board, excise local. Ideally, that's capped at some level. We do definitely need transparency on that, where that money goes. I'm not saying we lower taxes and lower tax revenue. It's just economics, right? You lower the taxes, you sell more cannabis, you get more taxes.
More taxes.
And just,
well,
who knows?
California is the only state that does a 15% excise on across the board. I don't understand what is going on right now. It's very frustrating. I know that we're never going to lower taxes, and that's fine. I'm not trying to promote lowering taxes, because that's never going to happen. I'm just trying to figure out.
Let's not say never. Let's just.
Well, I mean, come on. It's
totally unreasonable. Like, let's be real.
Don't hire them. But where does the money go? We want transparency. Thank you. Transparency on where those tax dollars go. And I think as residents, as consumers, and as cannabis businesses, we should know where that money goes.
Yeah.
But
it's significant.
It is significant, but I that's a battle that I don't know if I'm ever going to win. Well,
I appreciate you bringing it up. Just bringing awareness to it is something. I think one thing that I see a lot is we are in the cannabis industry, but a lot of us are advocates as well. And we need to continue to advocate for change, especially because we work with a plant that can help so much. So yes. I appreciate where your mind's at and the intention. That's definitely needed as we move ahead, because you're right. We are outnumbered on the fentanyl side. We are outnumbered on the illicit side. And there needs to be some structural change in order for us all to survive and not go through this extinction event that we're all looking at right now.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So that's the wrap. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the insight and all the energy that you've put into your operations, flower, the team, everything. It's much appreciated, and you've been a fantastic partner. And we're glad that you're growing a bit, but also sort of weathering the storm together.
Thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we'll meet again in the next year or two.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna go smoke a bunch of this, so. As a celebratory.
Lucky you. Well, I'm going to go work.
Okay.
All right. Have a good one.
This is how I test, I smoke and then I see if I can do everything. And that way I can make sure anyone using the system is, good to go.
They can do it high and sober, right?
Yeah, exactly. Has to be that easy.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one.
Okay. Bye. Thanks so much for joining us here today. Follow on LinkedIn for future episodes where every month we'll dig into different aspects of the cannabis retail ecosystem and share insights to help dispensaries thrive. Learn more at getmeadow.com. Take care, everybody.